So saying that we have identified the tables that are dimension tables in this Northwind data set that we've been working on. We've cleaned all the tables, where there was need to merge tables together to form one single table, we have done that, okay? The tables that are dimension, we're saying are products table because it tells us information around the products that we sell. Categories is a dimension table because it's also giving us information about the different categories of products that our business is concerned with. Customers table is also a dimension table because we have information about the customers that we serve. Employees is also a dimension table because it's giving us information of the employees that we have employed that are serving within the business. Okay, then I jump to territories table because it's giving us information of where the territories that we are dealing products with. So that gives us that information. Suppliers, the suppliers of the products that we sell. This gives us information about that. Shippers, the shipping companies that we use. Shippers give us that. So those are dimension table or lookup table because they just give us information and details of, all these different aspects to our business. But where the actual orders are placed, the table that records the actual business that is happening in whatever daily, whether daily or hourly or per minute, however we record, is the orders table in this case. Initially we had orders table and other details, and we looked for a way to merge the two together so that we have just one fact table to work with, and make our life easy. Again, that all of the classes are recorded, so we'll be fine if we follow through one by one when we watch and practice along, okay? But what makes these orders a fact table is because orders are recorded and we can see the order dates, the customers that, bought those products, the order ID generated for each orders, the dates that the employees that served, each of these orders, the order date, the required date, the ship date, the dates that the products were shipped to the customers, the shippers that shipped each of the products, how much they paid for shipping, the freight, the ship name, the city that these products were shipped from, the ship region, a lot of missing values in the ship region, but we are not bothered with that at the moment because it's not that really necessary just yet in the report that we are going to be generating. Okay, the ship country we can see, then we can see the product ID for each of the products that were bought. We see their IDs there so that we can use it to locate the price, the cost, how much it costs the business to get them, the quantities, the discounts that we give as a business, then the sales price. Okay, the sales price, how much they paid for each of these products. Then we've done further work. We've gone on to calculate the total cost price because the prices we saw before were unit price. And where quantity is 12, it means we have to multiply 12 by each of these unit price to get the total cost as well as the final sales price as well. Okay, we shouldn't forget that discounts were given, so we had to calculate the amount of discount that was taken off and the final money amount that we took from our customers for those that were discounted, those that were not discounted, and how much profits were made. Okay, these were what we did in the last class. Now, our data set is ready. The tables are ready to be brought into Power BI because we are within Power Query at the moment. So we are ready to take this work and take it into Power BI and concern ourselves with the next step. So the next step, we go into under Home. We say we want to close this. So close and apply. There are three options there. You want to close this and apply it into Power BI desktop, or you just want to apply without closing this, or you just want to close without applying. So whichever option you want to use, but you will find yourself many a time, most of the time, you will find yourself using close and apply because you want to close the Power Query out of the way. And every change that you made, you want it to be applied in Northwind, sorry, in the Power BI desktop, which is this one here. Okay. So immediately you bring your table in, it loads into here. Okay, you would see how it's loading, but because we've loaded this before, you see all the tables are brought in. You can see the tables, and if you expand each arrow, if you expand, you will see all the columns in each table, like that. Okay. Now, when you get here, this used to be 3 of them before. We used to call, well, jokingly used to call them the 3 wise men. This report view, when you click on it, this is the view we are seeing now. And then we have the table view, which is where you can view each of the tables as tables, like we saw in Power Query. So when I'm clicking on categories, I can see the tables there. When I'm clicking on customers, I can see the tables there, and so on and so forth. Others, I can see the tables there. Okay, so that's the table view. And then we have the model view, where you can see how that icon is drawn, where we can see the different relationship, how there's links between different tables there. And that is what we have here. Immediately you bring your tables in. Power BI is sensible enough to try and look for tables that could be related to each other and join them, okay? But it's your job to look through what it has done. In case it hasn't joined the tables the way you want them joined, then it's your job to study what it has done and undo anything you don't agree with, if that's not how you want the work to be. Ignore this for now because it's not really linking with any of the tables. And I doubt that it's going to be useful to us in any way, but we'll know what to do with it with time. But you see, let's look at what's happening in this model view. Let's study the model, the data model that we have, okay? If I look at between customers and others, now, how it works is that all your lookup tables, the dimension tables, they look for a way to join with the fact table, where they can have a direct link to the fact table. They make sure to do that. Where they can't, they look for another lookup table, another dimension table that they can join with and get their source. For example, okay, let me not jump. Okay, for example, between customers table and others table. In the customers table, we have customer ID. One of the columns there is customer ID. And on the others table, the customer ID was recorded. Okay, so immediately we brought these tables in, others table and customers table are able to join in this relationship on customer ID. There is a common, column, a common ID between the two. And if I right-click this relationship, and if I wanted to delete, I would click on delete. But I'm not deleting this. I want to look at the properties. I want further details on what has been done, in this relationship. And we can see from others table, it's highlighted customer ID to customers table. And also here, it's highlighted customer ID, meaning that it's picking these two to form a relationship. And down here, it's saying cardinality, that is the type of relationship. It's called many to one. That is, Many to one means from the orders table, the customer ID can appear many times there. You know, a customer can buy from us as many times as possible. And each time they come to make an order and a new order ID is generated, the customer is repeated on our orders table that they bought again and then they bought again, they bought again. That's why this is the many side of the relationship. To customers table, we are saying many to one. So many on here on the orders table to one on here on the customers table. Because the customers table is where we record our customer information. And we expect that each of the customer ID should appear just once. Because I'm a customer here. On the customers table, they must have just one ID for me. Okay. And because that table is just holding customer information, my name or my ID should not be repeated on this particular table. Okay. Because if it's repeated, then there will be an error. So we are expecting that the customer IDs on here should appear once. Each one of them is supposed to be unique. Okay. And that is why this type of relationship is called many to one. One side of the table is your dimension table. And the many side of the table is your fact table. So it's like saying fact table joined to dimension table. Fact to dimension, many to one in this case. That's how that works. Now we can see the filter direction. I'll show you the arrow. Okay, the direction of filter is filtering from the many to the one. That's what that is saying there. That's the meaning, you know, of all this info. Yeah, all this information that all these lines that we see actually it's flowing. The arrow dimension is from customers actually to orders table. So one to many or many to one is the same type of, as long as it's from fact table to customer table to fact table, as long as on the orders table is where you have the many, and on the dimension table is where you have the one, then that relationship is all right. Okay, and that is what is happening between shippers, you know, and orders as well. If I click on here, let me scroll down so that we can see more of this orders table. I want you to pick. Okay. So from shippers, okay, let's go down. I'm looking for the ID that I used to join this. Now, never mind that on here we are calling it shipper ID, and on here we are calling it ship via. It's actually shipper ID as well. We can change that if you want, but it's the same, exactly the same information, okay? Because this is quite a short, a small table. So if we go into the shippers table now, all the IDs there appear once, but they appear many times in the orders table. And that is why exactly the same thing, okay? If we look at the properties like we saw before, okay, can you see it's just 1, 2, 3. This is the one side, but they are appearing so many times because there are so many rows on the orders table, okay? And like we saw before, many to one, okay? Single direction, okay? That's the meaning of that, that relationship. If we go into the table view and I click on shippers, okay, can you see all of them are, we have just 3 shippers that ship for us. Speedy Express with the ID 1, United Package with the ID 2, Federal Shipping with the ID 3. But if we go into orders, okay, you will see that if we look for the shipper ID, which is this ship via, and you see how the same 1, 2, 3 are now repeated so many times because the shipping was done. So all these shippers, they shipped for us so many times in the orders table. And that's how many to one to many, fact table, dimension table. In your data modeling, that is what you need to, or what you need to understand, that is how that works. Okay. Now, and that's what's happening between products, you know, and orders table, between employees and orders table, It's using all the IDs, you know. Let me just make one more what's it called, example to drive it home very well for us. Product ID is here. So if I go into the product relationship, okay, can you see both product ID on both tables below there are highlighted, telling us again what we saw earlier, many to one or one to many. Products table is giving us information of our table. All the product IDs, they are appearing just once. Okay, can you see one? It's writing one on that relationship on product ID. It's writing one, you know, and it's putting star. Star stands for many, you know, like many times, you know, on this. And that's the explanation for employees, for suppliers. I can see that suppliers has gone to join to product table because we don't have suppliers directly, any supplier information directly on the orders table. Okay, so now this would have been a schema if we did not have all these extras, all these ones, these two tables here that are forming relationship with the products table. If we had covered them up, okay, let me just for a second show us something. I'll delete it. We'll form it again. I'll delete it just for a second and show us something very quickly. I hope I deleted that. Okay, it's working on it. Okay. A bit of patience. Hope I'm still in, okay, I'm still in class. I was gonna say, hope I'm still in, I hope we are understanding this. I'm deleting this as well, just for a second. Are we getting the explanation? Is the explanation clear to us? Let me know. You can unmute and talk. If it's not clear, which part is not clear, let me know, please. I need a response. So let me check. Who is in class?
Shade is in class.
Yeah, is it clear, ma?
Yeah, so far good.
I'm also in the class, ma, but I want to ask, why did you delete this two now that you just deleted? I think.
Good question. I deleted because I wanted to quickly show us something. We will join them back in a second.
Okay, ma.
Yes, I wanted to show us two different types of data model that we have very quickly. Okay, so I took those out because they were not directly speaking to our facts table. Instead, they were speaking to a dimension table. Okay, now let's ignore those for now, those two, just for a second. If this was all we had, let's assume this employees table, products table, shippers table, and customers table were all the lookup or dimension tables that we have. No more. That's all we have. And then we have the others table. Now, this type of data modeling or data model where all your lookup tables, all your dimension tables are directly linked to the facts table. None is left out. They are all talking directly to the fact table. This type of data model is the one we call star schema. Star schema. Okay, because it's forming something like a star, you know, where this is like in the middle and all these ones are surrounding it in form of a star shape. Okay, it depends on how many tables you have. Okay, to actually form that star shape. Okay, but the idea behind star schema is that all of your tables or your lookup tables are directly talking to the fact table. That is a star schema. Okay, but there is another kind of data model. Normally, where you can, you should be aiming to form a star schema from the beginning in your report. That should be your aim. Where you can, sometimes you can't, but where you can. Because chances are that as your report grows, your report becomes not as simple anymore over time. It's growing, more is being added onto it, more tables, more data sets and all of that. Okay. So if you start simple, star schemas are simple. If you start simple like this from the start, okay, then your data model will just gradually grow with your understanding. It will gradually grow into something that may become complex if it becomes complex over time. Okay, so this is what a star schema looks like. All of your dimension table or lookup table are directly linked to the fact table. Okay, but where you now have some dimension tables not being able to find a common ground, like a direct link to the star schema, but they have a relationship with another related dimension table. Okay, that's the case of these two that I deleted earlier. I deleted them so that we'll be able to see exactly what a star schema looks like first, before then we explain what this data set has gone on to form. Okay, so categories. Let's start with categories. We look into our orders table, okay? And what we could have used to form category is the categories ID, okay? The categories ID, which we can find on the category table, this category ID. But we look all through and there is no categories ID at all, okay? No categories ID, not even categories name is on this table, okay? We only have product ID, but there is category ID on the products table, okay? So which means this categories ID, fine, it cannot speak directly to the others table, which is important, but it can speak to the products table. So that relationship would then come here first. And because it's appearing many times on the products table and only once on the category ID, okay? So it's forming a one-to-many. Many to one, one to many. It doesn't really matter. As long as there's a one and there's a many and they are forming a relationship. Okay. So like we saw before, one to many here. And what happened? Why is this one to many? Despite the fact that they are both dimension tables. Because see, on categories table, all we have is each of these is appearing just once, giving us information about the different categories that we have. Beverages for category ID 1, the kind of products we find there: soft drinks, coffees, teas, beer, and ale. But on products table, each of these is now split. Each of these description, the type of products that fall into each of these categories is now split, such that if we come to product ID 1, which is a chai, which belongs to category ID 1. Remember that it's not just one product that we have under category ID 1, under category ID. We have so many products, under the same category. Under the same category, we have soft drink, all beverages, which can be soft drinks, can be coffee. So a lot of products will have the same category ID. So that when we then come to products table and just talk of just one product category and then further information, okay? And that is why category is being repeated on this table. And the same explanation goes to suppliers as well. Suppliers is being repeated on this particular table, okay? And on suppliers table, it's not repeated. We have supplier ID 1. The company name is this, and these are the contact name of the person there. Okay, but on the products table, we see what products they supply us on the products table. Okay, so that is why in our data model now, categories ID doesn't appear anywhere on the fact table. It's appearing on the products table. So it's not directly, the categories ID is not directly linking to the products. It's not directly linking to the others, but the products table we link it to is also speaking to the others. So it's like from categories ID now, because of this formation, this relationship, it will come here first and then come through here. Okay, so that's not a direct relationship anymore. Okay, the same goes for suppliers. Okay, so I'm going to drag suppliers from this table to form that. This is how you form your own. Drag it onto the supplier ID here. The same kind of information we have seen before, you know, and it forms that relationship. Now, in this type of data model, because we now have a few products, a few tables, whether one or two or more, that are not directly speaking to your fact table, but they are just flaking. We call these flakes now because they are branching out from another dimension table. So these are all lookup tables that are now branching from another lookup table. So this type of data model where we have this type of arrangement is now called snowflake, no longer star schema that we have seen before. I thought it was very important for us to understand what is happening within our data model. And these data model settings, whichever one you use in your report, is really important because as you use your different slicers, filters, different calculations that you are going to be doing, each of those aspects, which is very important in your data analytics work, is going to be depending on how you have made your data model, which is why you need a good understanding of how to model your data to achieve the kind of report that you are achieving. None of them should be missing. We shouldn't have a missing link, especially if your report depends on it. Okay. Well, by the time we do a few more, the points from this data modeling will be driven home even more for us, okay? But that it was necessary for us to not just brush aside that aspect, of data model, of data analysis, okay? There's a part where you understand the business question, that you are trying to answer, sorry. And there is the part where you have to understand the data set that you have been given and marry the two together and say that, okay, the data sets, the data I've got access to, and the questions they want me to use this dashboard to answer, do I have enough? Is there a correlation? Is there anything missing? When you have established that nothing is missing, that's when you bring everything together and start gradually building. And as you are building, you are organizing meetings, maybe weekly or 2 weekly meetings with your stakeholder to show them as work is progressing so that they will see that what you are actually working on, the results you are bringing is in line with what they actually meant. Sometimes their need is not very clear to them either. So as they see what you have done, they may tweak some things and say, okay, actually, can't we, view this in this way, because what you've done currently may not necessarily solve the problem we are trying to solve. And that's to and fro, that's going back and forth with the work. By the time you finish, you would have, you will be confident that you are working along the line of what they need. Okay. So at this point now that we have brought data in, we now have our business question, which I dropped. I hope I am opening it. I didn't open it. I have dropped on our data page, I believe. Okay, I've dropped them. The questions we are going to be working with is an executive sales dashboard, I believe is what it says. And first, we are going to work on the KPIs. What's KPIs called again? Something indicator.
Performance indicator.
Key
Key performance.
Exactly. So we work on those. And most of them are in our orders, orders table. Okay. But a neat way to do to do this, and we could easily just drag and drop certain. Okay, let me show us this very quickly. It's very important. Let's use the orders table, because as you can see, when you expand that orders table, you see some of the columns have some icons to them. Those icons, they have a meaning. Okay. Now, this is where the data type, you have to make sure you use the right data type for each column. Okay, we can see that customer ID has nothing. That's fine. Okay. Discount is in numbers, whether whole number or decimal number or fixed currency, it's all numbers. So it has this summation sign that tells us that this is number that you can sum, or sigma sign. The same goes for discount. Discount is in numbers. That's why you have that. Okay. Even the freight is in numbers as well. Initial sales is in numbers. Now we have the order date. And you can see something that looks like a calculator, but that's actually their icon for a calendar that says this is a date. So that's a calendar icon there, that we can see. And the rest is still all numbers, calendar for dates. Okay. And that's all it is currently here. There's something I forgot that we haven't done, and that is the dates table. It's a standard practice for us to have a dedicated date table, okay, which we haven't done just yet. Okay, so let me quickly fetch my date table code. There's a date table code that I use. There's different ways that you can use to make your date table, but there's a date table code that I normally just use for all my Power BI reports. We can use the remaining minutes very quickly to quickly show how that works. So I will stop share for a second and fetch it. Sorry about that. Just a second. Date table code. Okay, I found that. And let me get out the question as well that we are going to be answering. Again, I put that in the data platform as well. So Northwind business questions, yes. Let me open that as well. And now I can share again. Okay, so this is a Northwind business question that we are going to be answering in this week. Let's say this week, this is what we are going to be working on. But before I show us that, there's this date table code, which I have shared before. I will share again in case we have people who don't have it. It's not a code you need to understand. No need to understand it, but you need to understand how to use it. Okay, it's a code that has been developed by some people and it's been shared around for you to make your own date table. So before we go back into Power BI, I'm going to just click somewhere there, use Control-A to pick everything, and use Control-C to copy everything. So I've copied, then I'll go back into my Power BI, and I'm going to create a blank query. Blank query means nothing is in it, it's blank. Okay. So it's taking us back into Power Query, and it's given us a blank query, which nothing is there. Can you see? It says query 1, and it's empty. Source, nothing in the source. Okay. Now we will then open something we call the advanced editor, which is under home. Under home, if you go into the query section, there's what we call the advanced editor. This is where all the code, all the steps you take, I'm clicking on it, all the steps you take when you work and it's recorded on under these applied steps, all those applied steps are normally recorded here as code. Okay. Now there's nothing here. It says let source equals nothing in source, and that's it. Okay. So you are going to paste over what you just copied, the code that you just copied. I'm going to paste over and Control V all of the code I just copied. So it's just a case of copy and paste, basically. And we can see what it says here. No syntax error have been detected. So I'll click on done. Okay, and we can see now it's saying function date, start date as date, end date, it's asking me now. It's brought this enter parameter. It's asking me that what is my start date? What is my end date? That I forgot to check that. Okay, you should check your table. Okay, and if we go into the other dates, that's the date we'll use. Remember, there's different dates here, but the most important date to us is the other date. I want to look for the date that is it says it's already sorted ascending here, but I'll click on ascending, and we can see it says 04/07/1996. Okay, let me use entire data set and just to be sure that we are on the safe side. And it's still saying that, okay, so this is the 4th of July, 1996 is the earliest date that we have here. So let's note that 4th of July, 1996 is our earliest date. And if we say that, let's load more, just to be on the safer side. And we can see here, 4th of July, 1996, but I want the descending now to see the last date. So 6th of May, 1998. The first one was 4th of July, 1996. So if I come back to the query, and I'll put maybe 1st of July, 01/07, 1996. My start date. And my end date, what was that one? It says 6th of May, 1998. I can put the end of May, just to accommodate. You can actually put a later, if you believe your report will grow into the end of the year, you can, or you want, it will surpass next year or next 2 years, you can put the end of that next 2 years date in your report. We are just using the date we have within this particular report. Okay, so I'll put 31st of May, 1998 on here for the end date. Okay, that got removed. 1st of July, 1996. And 31st of May, 1998. Sorry, I didn't put my light on. Okay, and that is asking for the financial year month. It's normally April for most countries. April is normally the financial year month, and it's telling us that we can invoke this. So I will click on invoke and see it's gone on to create a whole date table where you have the date from the 1st of July 1996. If I click on the last date, if I say sort descending, 30th of May 1998, you see. Okay, so we have our dates, and it's gone on, that code has given us year as well, quarter, month, day, and so on and so forth. So it calls it invoked function, but I'll call it date table. Okay, date table. And you can look through and remove the ones that you feel, oh, I don't want plus. I want underscore date underscore table. Okay, so that's the name I'm going to call that table, date table. Okay, and you can go on, if you want your year to be a whole number, you can change that. quarter, month of year. You can just call this month number. Okay, so you can change this up to what would suit you, because month number, because you know, day of the month. If you don't need day, datings, all of this, you know, anyone you don't need there, you can remove. Like anyone is not there that you feel you would need, you can go on and make it. Okay, but we have a dedicated date table now. Okay, we close and apply that. 1 minute more and we'll continue this tomorrow. Okay, we bring the new date table in and we look for a relationship for it. In case it doesn't get the right relationship, we're still waiting for it to completely bring it into this Power BI. We are going to link it onto other dates in the others table. We're still working on it. Okay, it's done. So let's check here. Look for the dates table. Okay, it didn't form any relationship, and that's fine. We can make our own relationship with it. I'll bring this down a bit, bring this close by, and we will link these other dates with it. Okay, wait for it to form, and we see many to one, other dates. Okay, we save that. Now, if the data types are not the same, it won't accept it. Okay, so the data types are the same, and that was fine. And we have succeeded in having our own date table. One more thing to do about this date table is to mark it as a date table. So if we click on it, and already it's opens table tools because it's a new table. Okay, it says mark as date table. So I'll click on mark it as date table on that. So choose a date table, dates. The date is our date column. Okay, and we save that. Okay. Okay, so, and by God's grace, we will start to answer these questions we have here gradually, one after the other, you know, tomorrow. And tomorrow is when we get introduced to the concept of DAX, data analysis expression, how it is formed and how it is used. I think we are getting to the exciting part gradually. But yes, we will draw the curtain on here. Let me stop recording.